Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Back Porch Lounge. We are the Leaf Cutters, and we are not professionals, but we are to help. Right? We're here to help. I don't know. We are to help. I guess we could do that too.
We are the help.
I mean,
English
we
is
are to
hard.
help. We're you can hire us. We'll come out. We'll clean your garage, whatever.
We have a very
But
specific set of skills.
it's like I haven't been doing this intro since we began this whole
Right.
thing. It's new to me every single time. It's wonderful. But today I'm going to go around the room and introduce everybody because we have a special guest, and it's Dirk Ebener from Cigars for Beginners. He's also got a awesome website called thescotchworld.com, and he's also got the website for the North Georgia Cigar Festival, which the Leaf Cutters are actually going to be at next year.
Yay!
So we're going to dive into all of that today. And just to go around the room, we have Andy.
Hello there.
We have Robert.
Hello there.
We have Zach.
Hello there.
And go ahead and say hello to everybody, Dirk.
Hello there.
All right.
It's already part of the team.
He is. He's like, jump right in there. Did it. Yep. But today, Dirk has actually provided us some awesome cigars. We're getting to one first, and that's we're going to visit Italy. And we got the Toscano Classico. We're going to check it out, see how it is. We've already had the question, which end do you light? And Dirk has been gracious enough to tell us, start with the fat end in your mouth. So there's a
How do I
tip
put the middle
already.
in?
Right up. There you go.
I'm not sure how that turns out.
Light it at both ends. Just put a little hole right there in the middle and light it at both ends and see what happens.
We'll just put a punch in the middle and it'll be fine. That seems excessive. It does.
That's it. I think that's how you do it. So as we light up, Robert, do you have a question?
Yeah, Dirk, actually, at your festival that's coming up in March, what can people expect to see and hear? The sights and sounds.
So let me go one step back and talk a little bit about how this whole thing started, because I think that's part of the overall idea of the event. I started Cigars for Beginners a while back and noticed that it was difficult to find one platform where you find a lot of information all in one website. You have to look everywhere. You have to look for cigar lounges. You have to look for stores. And so I started a subpage on the website, listing lounges around the world. And then I decided to also add stores from around the United States to this website. And while I was doing research, I noticed that there was not a lot of festivities and events in North Georgia. North Georgia meaning Marietta, going north towards Chattanooga, and then going into the North Georgia mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in the trade show and conference industry for 30 plus years. Whenever I see something like that coming up, I'm starting to put my head on and thinking, what can I do in order to change that? So the North Georgia Cigar Festival really came out of the fact that the closest event or events that cigar enthusiasts can go to is a good hour south of here. And I thought we can change that by starting a festival in this area here and recruit people, bringing people to the event so that they can exchange, thoughts about the cigars, having the opportunity to taste different cigars, do networking, learning, education. Food and beverages will be there as well. So it's a typical cigar festival event, but in a market that has yet not been touched. There is a void. There was a void. Now it's no longer a void because it's there, but the void is filling with the North Georgia Cigar Festival.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So, following up on that question, with the North Georgia Cigar Festival, what events and stuff are you going to have at it? Are you going to have a roller? Are you going to have a long ash competition? Are you going to have, what are you going to have going on there?
So there is going to be long ash. That's definitely. I'm working through finding cigars that are offering the opportunity to everybody, not just, 10 here, 20 there. I will work with the cigar company. Hopefully that will give us, enough so that we have sufficient number of cigars for this. We will limit the number of participants per event. And my idea is to really split it up so it's not 100 people in line doing the same thing and smoking this to win the competition. We also will have a cigar exchange where you can bring some cigars and you will get in return the same amount of cigars that you turn in. You will get tickets. And then you can go ahead and pull the boxes that are sitting there with that number that you will pull out. You will get whatever is in there somebody else put in that box, which I think is sort of interesting because I think one of the biggest things in the cigar, as a cigar enthusiast, is to be brave, if you want to call it that, to try something new. And we all want to expand our taste, just like we do with whiskey and wine and other spirits and desserts. And we want to make sure that we are out there exploring cigars that we have never had before. And there's plenty of that. And I believe that with the cigar exchange program, we will hit the nail on the head with that exact there. We will have some education. I think we will have plenty of people who are new to the cigar world. I want to make sure that they understand the basics as well as, a little bit about cigar etiquette. What are the things, as basic as what are the different types of cigars that are out there, and then talk a lot about the pairing of cigars with food and wine, other spirits. There will be some music. We'll have a DJ and things like that. So it's several hours. It will start at right now. I have it time for 2 o'clock from 2 to 8, and that will give people enough time to hang around and learn from others.
That's awesome.
Very
It's sounding more like a, kind of a great for beginners and advanced people to come there, share knowledge, and learn.
And that's what it's supposed to be, exactly. Right there. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. And I appreciate you letting us be a part of that.
Right?
Well,
I'm excited.
I don't know if you'll regret it later, but I appreciate it.
I really are interested now.
Yeah, he does.
Say we
It's like, why did I
apologize
come on this
now.
It's all about opening up opportunities for those who are new to it. And that's how Cigars for Beginners really started, exactly with that concept behind it. And I want to bring that into an event, into a festival, and give people, hopefully an annual event that they come to, and they know that every March or April, whenever the next dates in the future will be, and people can come to this location and enjoy cigars and learn from others and share their knowledge.
But also,
It needed to get bigger. It needs to be all day. 2 o'clock's late. I start drinking
weekend.
at 10. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we also want to have lounge owners and cigar store owners. And if I have this, on another day of the week, and if it's a whole weekend up here in our area, a lot of those cigar owners and store owners might not make it.
Fair point.
On Sunday, from 2 o'clock, starting at 2 o'clock, they can come at 11, set up. They're ready to get going. And if we find out that they need a little bit more time, they can come earlier. And that will be sufficient for them. And then in the years to come, we can possibly make it an all day or 2 days. Depends on where we're going with this event.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Oh, and speaking of Cigars for Beginners, if you haven't checked out that site, it's a great site, especially for, if you're a beginner or if you're, aficionado, or if you're just like us, where we're in between, you can go there. He has an excellent list of different lounges. He literally has a lounge finder on there. He has a cigar store finder. So you can go there, check it out, and he has reviews on every single one of them because he's been to each one of them.
Yeah,
he was in each one of them.
I've seen all these lounges, fortunately, and right now from a cigar store finder, it's about 110 stores in 15 states.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've not been
That's some
able to
homework.
afford, but it's a lot.
So bringing you up today, we're happy to bring you onto this episode because we are going to start trying pairing with cigars. Each one of us are going to come up with something that we think would go good, pair well with a cigar that we're smoking. Now, I did a little bit of research on the other cigar that you gave us, so I had a different pairing for that, but it seems to be working out for this as well. So, kind of happy about that. But anyway, let me get to what I was I'm pairing mine with today. Today, I am actually pairing mine with the Proper 12 Irish whiskey.
Okay.
It actually sets it off pretty well for me. This is not a bitter cigar at all. It's actually pretty smooth.
Very.
And it's going very well with a smooth whiskey. So I like that. Not exactly sure what I should have been looking for, but it works out for me.
Then it
So
works out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also run a whiskey club up here where I live, and we have monthly tastings. And this month we had whiskeys from Ireland, Wales, France, and Sweden. And people are always saying, why do you bring in different whiskeys? How do we drink them? How do we pair them? What should I look out for? And I always tell people at the end of the day, it's really what you personally like and what you enjoy. The same thing goes with food. Some people like with wine, with fish. The next person with a steak. The next person with a pasta portion. And I really think that everybody has a different perception of cigars and food pairing. So I'll really say go at it. I actually, when I was in Italy, I got a Chianti from Italy and brought it home, and I'm pairing that with a cigar today. So it's very nice. So don't stop testing and trying. Try whatever you want with it and enjoy it.
Yeah, because
I have so much stuff in my liquor cabinet, it's hard to figure out what I want to try with everything. So,
yeah. Well, the reason I'm bringing up pairing more is like, is there a certain way that we should be trying to pair stuff with different things? Like, when you have a cigar that says it has hints of leather and cedar, I mean, what the hell are you going to try to pair that with? Because, I mean, granted, my, Dr. Pepper with the 23 flavors is always going to work because something's always going to pair with it. But when you're talking about whiskeys, pairing with, or even a wine like you're drinking, pairing with, a cedar or oaky, are you looking for same? Like, would your wine want a little hint of oak in it, or a little bit of fruity taste? I don't know.
Well, first thing I think, which is very important, is whenever you are getting to a new bottle of, let's stick with whiskey. If you take the whiskey and open it up, just like a wine, air has to get to the beverage. So I always tell people when you have a brand new whiskey that you have never had before, but you heard about or read about it, what I would recommend that you do is put 4 glasses in front of you and pour in each of those glasses about an ounce and a half. And then let that glass sit for a different amount of minutes right in front of you. So I usually recommend 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 8, or even 10 minutes. And then the last one sits there 10 plus minutes. There's some people who say that if it's a 12 year, you should let it sit there for 12 minutes or 15 minutes. I think it's a personal preference. But what you will find out is that the profile and the palate on your end, but the profile of this whiskey will completely change. It will really have an impact. And when you swirl it, what you do is, in a Glencairn glass like this. So if you swirl it, you will let air get in. The reason why this is open, this is a Glencairn glass, the traditional glass that you would use for whiskeys or scotch. You can put whatever you want to put in, but it's really made for scotch. It looks like almost like a tulip. And it has a bigger down a bigger side down here, and the air goes out like this. It shoots out. So when you swirl, you bring air in, and the air pushes some of those flavors in and brings out some of that as well. So what will happen is that the nose will completely change on what you have in front of you. And then take the cigar, if you have the patience, take the cigar and try each of those 4 glasses. And I would put my money on it that you will be very amazed on how that cigar with each of those 4 whiskeys will change.
Wow.
That's interesting. I've never
That's
tried
new.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
me
pretty
neither.
awesome.
I have noticed a change with a glass of whiskey as it sits, and I kind of thought of that as being a little bit of alcohol evaporation, a little bit of water evaporation. But that's interesting to kind of time it out like that.
Let's say you
Try
have an
that.
Irish whiskey with just writer's tears. I will pour it in here, and you will see a lot of activity already happening just from pouring it into the glass. It will automatically change colors just a little bit. If you compare the 2 colors, I'm not really sure how good you can see, but
Yeah.
you can see that it already changes. And so the impact on that scotch, as you let it swirl, it is changing already because the air gets in. So if you swirl it, what will happen is it will leave what we call legs. There's a little film that builds on the inside of the glass as it goes. It can't really show that because it's, well, maybe they can.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, you can see it.
You see it? That's
Mhm.
called the
Mhm.
whiskey legs. And that will also tell you, just like with a cigar, it will tell you some of the age of that whiskey that is in the glass. So as you let that glass swirl, the whiskey swirl in the glass, try that in the future. The next one, Zach, you have ice in yours, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was that
No,
correct?
no, this is just a neat pour.
Oh, it is. Okay, yeah. So
My Glencairn, I think, is packed up already, though.
I'm the one that got the ice. I have it.
okay, so if
Yeah.
you were to put water, just a few drops of water into your whiskey, or even ice, it has a different impact on the whiskey as well. Just
Absolutely.
like with the cigar.
Definitely. It's interesting about the whiskey legs. I'd not heard that before. I've encountered that in wine tasting, but never really thought about it in whiskey. And so you're saying the legs are more visible in an older whiskey, or what's the characteristic that you?
It shows you how young the whiskey is. A younger whiskey runs down lighter and faster than an older whiskey that stays a little bit more longer on the inside of the glass,
I gotcha.
and it has legs to walk
Viscous.
all of that. But I think the idea came from it has the it walks up to the edge of the glass. I don't know, but
Ah,
sounds
Makes
good.
sense.
Yeah.
Or it takes your ability to walk home, whichever the case may be.
In wine,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, it's usually like a characteristic of the amount of sugar that's in the wine. Like more sugar kind of means it's a little thicker and it's going to show up a little more. I wonder if that is because of the whiskey's concentration from the time in the barrel. It's
The
interesting.
barrel again. The barrel also has an impact on the whiskey. If you have
Sure.
a barrel that has a lot of red wine in it, and before it came in for you to fill it with whiskey, the color of the whiskey will automatically change.
I'd be learning
That's
today, y'all.
fascinating. I'm about to say, I'm just like, I'm shutting up and just learning. I'm like, all right. But we do need to do a check-in on this cigar. Usually we do a check-in after light up, but I've been enjoying it, so I didn't even really think about it. So let's do a check-in on it. What are your first thoughts on it? And then we'll go to your, actually, while we're doing your first thoughts, let's also do your pairing, because I already started mine. But
Well,
my first thoughts on
finish
this,
your thoughts.
it's really smooth. I was actually surprised for as it's kind of dark, and it looks kind of Andy's going to get me for this, but it kind of looked like a big General Grant to me when I first saw it. But it's not loosely wrapped like those are, and it's a very good draw on it. I really like the taste of it. What about you, Andy?
Well, first of all, I wanted to do magic with it. It kind of felt like I don't know a wizarding wand, but it lit up really well. It's got I'm with you, Gibbs. It's got a really good draw. So before the podcast started, we were talking about kind of what it smelled like. And Dirk, I'm stealing your words. But Black Forest ham is probably a good olfactory word for it. Doesn't come across my tongue that way. Because if it did, I'd have gone and got some bread and just gone to town. But it is good. It's got I can't yet place where my palate says it's at. But it's different than the things that I generally smoke. But it's a good difference. And I'm drinking. What am I drinking? I'm drinking James I Wouldn't Be Reserve, which is Tennessee straight bourbon from the wonderful people at Old Smoky, because it was the fullest bottle I had and could fit, into a glass.
So no thought process behind it. It was just like, hey, I want to grab that one.
Zach and I talked about my thought process the other afternoon when he picked up the cigars, and
Yeah.
It's what you got, not what I'm running out to get.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Not putting you down. Gotta say it works out anyway, right?
I mean, you said it was like a general grant, so we're not knocking anybody. We don't kink shame.
All right, Robert, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, it lit up well, kind of still going. I was trying to go for the ash, but it dropped off just a second ago and ended up in my lap. But yeah, I like it. It's very smooth. It's very, very smooth. I mean, it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it. It's burning great and I like it.
What I do like about this cigar is I do feel like Clint Eastwood and the good, bad, and the ugly.
You know, I'm watching Zach, and every now and then he'll hold it in a certain way. I'm like, that's Clint Eastwood right there, boy, right there.
See, but I think it's more like one of the,
I feel that.
with the big bushy beard. I think he's more like a villain of a Clint Eastwood film, honestly. But that's just me. That's the vibe I get.
I don't think there are any villains in Clint Eastwood's movies, to be honest. Well, I don't know. Maybe they are, but I don't know.
Everybody's kind of a bad guy in there.
I'm going to say, yeah.
In
most
the
of those
Western,
films,
yeah, everybody's a bad guy.
But I think honestly, Clint Eastwood's the bad guy in most of them because he's usually playing the side against the side. He's the guy in the middle, just playing both of them. So it's like, which one actually is the bad guy in this situation? But sorry, Zach, go ahead with yours, man.
Like the cigar. It does remind me a little bit of Clint Eastwood, just like the thinness, and we were talking about that before we got started, and I gotta admit, it makes me feel a little cool. But as far as like the cigar itself and its flavors, I'm getting a little bit of like kind of black pepper out of it, which, as a few of you know, is kind of a thing I like in cigars. But it's not overpowering. It's a little more approachable than I was expecting based on the smell and like the wrapper taste, which tasted like it was going to be pretty potent. So it's much more approachable than I was expecting. And for being kind of like a non-uniform construction, the draw is really good on it. So very, it's enough tension to kind of feel like you're pulling the smoke through, and it's not just free flowing, but it's not hard to get any smoke out of it, and the smoke output's good. Yeah, I will admit this changed my opinion a little bit. If I'd seen this in the store, I might have skipped over it, but now I probably would pick up a little box of it because I kind of like it.
Well, they come in this nice little 5-pack, so once you get them, they're really nice to have. They actually came directly from Italy when I was there this summer. I picked up a few of those packs here, and I always, like you, Zach, I always thought about Clint Eastwood having those.
Yeah.
That's why I was hunting for them. It wasn't that easy to find them, to be honest with you, because it's cigars are not everywhere in Italy, at least not where I was. So.
It makes perfect sense because we talked about it earlier before the podcast. With Italy, spaghetti westerns were filmed there. So, what would be the cigar that Clint Eastwood would have picked up? It would have been something like this. So, it definitely has that nostalgia, and we've like I said, we've had episodes where we've talked about that specific thing where Clint Eastwood smoking a cigar was kind of an influence for us. Is like, hey, that's pretty badass. So that it definitely has that nostalgia to it. But Robert, what are you pairing yours with today? Diet Coke or Diet Dr. Pepper? Dr. Pepper. Nice.
And,
How about
I've
you,
got,
Zach?
this is Wild Turkey 101, or as I affectionately call it, Kickin' Chicken.
Nice.
But that's due to the lack of whiskey in my house at the moment, because I drank down the collection pretty significantly in preparing to move. So less bottles to move.
So
But it is
Dirk
pairing
was
pretty
the. I'll say Dirk was the only.
Came ready with a good glass of Chianti directly from Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be really interesting to have that when you smoke an Italian cigar. I thought it would be cool.
Do you feel like those kind of complement each other in the right ways?
Absolutely.
Nice. I
It,
definitely can see it.
Chianti is pretty heavy. There's a lot of fruit in it. And if you pair that and bring in the Chianti along, cigar first, Chianti second is what I prefer to do. And it really balances it nicely and gives it even a deeper experience on the palate, which I liked a lot.
Hey, Dirk, in a previous podcast, I think you were saying that Italy, the tobacco market's mainly controlled by one source.
Well, it's not one source. It's on mostly one store type. 90% of Italian cigars are those. And I had a very difficult time to find cigar stores or lounges. But when you go into these cigar stores in Italy, there's a lot of history, a lot of tradition. This cigar manufacturer, Toscano, actually dates back to 1815. That's when they started.
Wow.
So that's a lot of tradition in cigars. And over the years and over the many centuries, it has grown to dominate the market in Italy quite a bit. In 1870, interesting was that you would go ahead and buy a newspaper, and you would get a cigar together at the time. It's sort of like a package deal, if you want to call it that.
That's
And
funny.
it was very interesting because when you look at it from the perspective of history, the concept behind it was to give people that realization of taking the cigar along with the paper, because like my grandfather, I remember when I was a little boy in Germany, we would go to his favorite newspaper kiosk, and he would buy a newspaper and a cigar, and then we would go
Cigar.
home and sit in his kitchen, and he would enjoy that together. And so, it was a 2-cent newspaper together with the cigar. With the cigar was established in 1885. That was the concept that started, which of course had a huge impact on sales of those cigars. The cigars, if I can make a little side note here, if you were to go right now on Cigars for Beginners on Instagram, there's a series about uh, the cigar industry in Germany and the impact of women in the cigar industry. And it's the same thing in Italy. In the early 1900s, 1920s, over 2,500 women were involved in making these cigars.
Oh,
So
wow.
there is a lot of history in the cigar, and I personally really enjoy the fact that initially when I had it before I lit it up, it was peppery to me. When you put it in your mouth, you had a little bit of a pepper on it, and when you smell it, it was very earthy. And now that that I'm smoking it, that pepper is gone for me, at least.
I'm on.
Yeah. But speaking of cigars for beginners, and you're doing exposés, you're doing one actually on pairing coming up in October. I caught.
I do actually. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
It's got one going up in October, which is actually pairing whiskey, cigars, and chocolate.
Very nice. We're going to check that one out.
Yeah, those are three of my favorite things.
Absolutely.
And I think they're right, and they were right in the right order. So whiskeys, cigars, whiskey, and chocolate. Yeah, that's the order.
That's
Yep.
the order.
Yep.
The
Because the
tasting,
chocolate definitely helps.
I did a tasting not too long ago where I actually had different types of chocolate with different percentage of cocoa in it. And the impact
Saw that.
of that was amazing when you tried that and had the cigar with it, and cigar, chocolate, and then whiskey.
Yeah.
put the whiskey on the back end of that.
Kind of as a palate cleanser.
Well, the chocolate also helps, especially if like you have a strong cigar. We've discussed this before. That chocolate will actually help with any kind of dizziness or kind of too much nicotine going on. It helps immensely.
It's my favorite
But
thing.
yeah, mine too. I ain't gonna lie. So in Italy, just like we can stay on. Well, actually, I want to stay on Italy because since you recently visited there, how are the lounges and the cigar shops compared to the U.S.?
The cigar lounges are much more traditional in the look and in the feel. It's very often that you have them attached to a restaurant. So you go to the restaurant, you have your pasta, you have your fish, you have your meats, or a lot of cheeses. And then you would go either in the same building or go walk around the corner and get into the lounge. Sit down. It's very heavy, but it's very traditional. If you walk into these cigar lounges, you see the old pictures, the old family pictures, and often these are going through generations and generations. The atmosphere is very heavy leather, dark, with lots of candles and a lot of wine standing in front of you, which is beautiful. And
Right.
then you can really go ahead and sit down and relax. The atmosphere is very enticing to come back. And I really enjoyed that. I was in 2 cigar lounges, one in Florence and one in Rome. And it was a little bit intimidating initially, to be honest with you, because you walked in and you had this history already at you and looking at you, literally. And to have those cigars there and sit down and have another 2 or 3 glasses of wine, they pour little. They don't, give you the big shots. They give
You
you.
don't get the whole glass.
No, you don't get the whole glass.
You get a taste.
You get a taste, and that taste, they bring you different little appetizers along with that, often meats and cheeses along with that cigar experience.
Wow. So you just hit it. You have an experience.
Yeah.
It sounds like with their lounges.
That's interesting.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
Where a lot of our lounges, your experiences, decent music, fun people to hang out with, maybe some sports, an event every once in a while. But that sounds like they're trying to romance you with a cigar. And that's
They do.
amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. So in your travels, especially with in the cigar industry, I know you're going into all these shops and things like that. What are pricing like? Over in Italy, and I don't know. I think you mentioned Singapore. You've been to Singapore in the past. What is the pricing like compared to the U.S.?
So in a cigar lounge in Europe, you will go anywhere between $5 and $12. That's sort of like the price range. Like I said, this 5-pack is like €7 or €8 US dollar, about six euros and 90 cents. So €7, so about $7.50, $8 a pop. Package. But if you look at the prices, very, very rarely it will go over €10. If you go into a cigar lounge like a Davidoff in Frankfurt at the airport, they have a Davidoff cigar lounge at one of the hotels. That's the upscale price point. That's when you go into the 28 to 30 plus. And that's not much different, not much different than if you go into a store here and buy a Davidoff. It's the same thing. You would buy, that's the upper crust of the cigars here and everywhere else. I remember that I was over in Asia and was completely price shocked when I saw that there was a Davidoff that started at $100, and I was like,
No,
I have the same stickers. I have the same sticker shock. Yeah.
So you have to, but at the same time, for me, when I travel to a location that I have never been before, and I have the opportunity to go into a cigar lounge or a store and then sit somewhere and enjoy that cigar, I'd rather spend a little bit more to have that one-time opportunity and experience than to be cheap and then look back and say, I wish. So I think that you have to sort of I always set aside a little bit of money pocket money for that experience, just to go in and not be money cautious to the extent that I don't enjoy what I do.
Makes sense.
Which is a good rule to live by if you can afford it.
If you can afford that.
I don't know. I'm just naturally cheap, so
Well, I mean, on a daily basis, I would not necessarily spend the same amount that I would if I go out and have dinner with you all. I mean, we would probably have a good time.
Oh yes,
Oh,
Derek.
absolutely.
Speaking of travel and cigars, I know when you're abroad,
Mhm.
there's more opportunity to try things that you can't quite get here in the U.S. or spend your hard-earned United States dollars on. And that's those sticks that are, I guess, we call them what, on the island south of Miami, also known
Specifically
as
90
Cuba.
miles.
Specifically 90 miles off the south coast. Yeah. How, and I don't know that we've asked anybody this that's been on the podcast. How do you feel that they compare to what we have here? I mean, I know I've had my opinions because yes, I've had a few over the years, but how do you feel that they compare to what we have access to here? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Of course, it's accessibility and being able to get those. That doesn't mean they're frequently available.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the prices over there are as crazy as they are here. When
Ouch.
you're buying some cigars, I know some of those cigars are actually going at a very high price point.
Mm-hmm.
So when my brother just visited a couple of weeks ago from Germany, he wanted to have some American cigars, and I took him to a lounge, and we sat down and I introduced some of the cigars, and he had never seen those, and he said he wished he could have those cigars in Europe. And on the other hand, a lot of Americans who go overseas would love to have, you know, these cigars, that brand, and others. But I
Mm-hmm.
always say there are a lot of really good cigars in Europe, uh, specifically in Germany. There are a lot of really good cigars that are starting to make an impact in the market in Germany and in Europe. So it's good to have choices that you can go for and not spend 200, 300 euros on a stick,
Agreed.
Right.
because that's what it takes.
Ouch.
Ouch.
You're right. That's not any different than finding them here.
Cool.
If you can find
Yeah.
somebody who has some.
Correct. And then, of course, when you are looking at Asia, the market prices are changing dramatically there as well. Sometimes they're even higher than they are in Europe.
I wonder if that's because they travel further.
No, it's more of a
Maybe
question
not.
of getting the cigars and having the access to them. The markets are limited, and if you look at the cigar humidors that are auctioned off, if you look at these, stories about who is buying these big, really beautiful cigar humidors with cigars in them, most of the time the winner of the auction is from Hong Kong or from Southeast Asia.
That makes sense. I am really enjoying this, Dirk.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate that. So, this other cigar you sent us, Suave, is this the German cigar?
No, it's actually from, if I'm not mistaken, it is actually Dominican.
Dominican. Okay. We were having a hard time finding a little bit of information on it.
The company that has them is Sagrado, and really nice people, very knowledgeable about it, and I like that as my to-go-to cigar. I enjoy it. It's a very light cigar. It's very easy to smoke. Has a lot of flavor. The interesting thing, what I like about it is that it changes from the flavor, like most of the cigars, right in the middle on the second, third,
Mm-hmm.
of it, which I really enjoy. And, the price point is really reasonable and affordable. So I always enjoy that. I smoke When I go to the lake or something like that, that's usually the cigar that I have with me.
Very nice.
Yeah, it did seem.
Go ahead, Gibbs.
Oh, sorry. It did seem really intriguing when we couldn't find it, and then we found one that we thought was it. It definitely had some interesting notes on it, so I was excited about seeing about it. I didn't remember where the origin was, because of course they tell you what the origin is, but it's made from leaves that are completely different countries. So I didn't know if it was actually made in Germany, but with leaves
No, it's not.
from Okay, yeah, I just didn't know.
Dirk, going back to the international side, speaking of Germany, and your heritage and the things that you've tried and done there, at least in regards to cigars, do you know what the cigar manufacturing is like there? Is it similar to like what we have here where, so we've had, we'll go with Aganorsa or Roma, and, they grow their tobacco on the farm there and they ship all of that. Or they make all that outside the continental U.S. and then ship it in for sale. How does that work?
They
Uh,
have,
Germany.
they have tobacco coming in, importing it. They
Okay.
have quite interesting is that some of the cigars are with the Sumatra leaf,
Mm-hmm.
which is of course in Asia.
Yep.
What also is very interesting is that the cigars there's a huge tradition in cigars in Germany specifically. And I'll again pitching this a little bit here about cigars for beginners. You will see a couple of articles coming up on my website where I'm talking specifically about the oldest cigar manufacturing or the oldest cigar store in Germany, which is in Munich,
Mm-hmm.
dating back to the mid 1800s. I talk
Oh,
a little
wow.
bit about the fact that how many women have been involved in making cigars, just like with the
Mm-hmm.
Italian one. It is the reason behind all these posts is really to open up the understanding of a little bit of a tradition in other countries, just to show what the history is and how many different countries have a really deep history in cigars. I think that's something that I can share because I grew up in Germany. I said earlier that my grandfather and I always went to this little kiosk to buy his cigar. There is in my hometown Gießen, there is a cigar company called Don Stefano, and they are that was the cigar my grandfather always smoked, and they're still making them in Gießen. But the area had 1,000 women had worked in the 20s to 1920s to 1960s in Germany in the cigar industry, and the
Oh,
photos
wow.
that I put on my posts there are actually from that region. I was able to get some of the original photos, and I'm sharing them there. But I really feel that often people don't understand that Europe has a lot of really good cigars. England has good cigars. You know, there is a lot of, just like whiskey, a lot of people don't know that Sweden has excellent whiskey. France has excellent whiskey. So it's the same thing with cigars. You can expand your reach quite a bit by getting some of those cigars. I was able to get a box of those cigars that my grandfather smoked, shipped over here to a friend who brought it along. And it was delicious.
Wow.
It almost kicked me back into the 1970s when I was there with my grandfather. You know,
That's
and experience that. My father has been a pipe smoker forever. So when I'm going over there in a couple of weeks, I will be able to bring home his pipes to the United States and line them up for display. So it's
wow.
nice that experience that I grew up with now.
My grandfather
That is awesome.
smoked cigars, but I have to ask my dad what he smoked because I kind of want to figure that one out because he always that was like his driving thing. He'd smoke in the car. He was a salesman. He owned a business that did oxygen and first aid sales. So like you put like an oxygen tank in your business, so if someone had an emergency, you could put them on oxygen while you're waiting for EMS to show up. But I got to ask my dad what he smoked because I'm intrigued now. That would be cool. And my dad was a pipe smoker too. It was always his vacation thing. He would sit in the hammock down by the lake, and I would smell that pipe tobacco, and I'd be like, "Oh, it smells so good."
But it's funny, yeah,
That comes off the relaxation.
Yeah. The other thing which I like, and we haven't talked about it yet, and I was wondering if we get there at one point, is one thing that I learned to enjoy while I was in Italy, and I have done it before, but it never really came to me as intense as it was when I was actually in Italy, was the pairing of cigars with coffee.
Oh yeah,
I'm all for that. We can talk about that all day long.
It's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. Yes.
The espresso with a cigar is opening a profile that is absolutely amazing. And so, Sagado, going back to this cigar, they actually also have.
Oh, interesting.
So some of
Heavy.
the cigar manufacturers, now the boutique companies mostly, are also introducing cigars. Cafe 1910 is one of those. I'm sorry, 1901 is one of those that has coffee along as well. Sagado is the same thing. You can also buy coffee from it.
Very interesting.
So, with your coffees and you're pairing with your cigars, do you go by roast? And what I mean by that is, like, if you're smoking like a Maduro cigar, a dark cigar, do you pair that with a dark coffee, a dark roast coffee? Or if you're doing a Connecticut style cigar, would you pair that with a lighter coffee? A light roast coffee. I mean, in my mind, it makes sense.
Honestly, I just put this coffee up, put a couple of double espresso with 4 spoons of sugar, and I'm living the day.
Dang it, Dirk! I'm trying to uncover secrets here. Okay.
Gibbs, I could have given you that secret.
I mean, yeah, you drink coffee that you like. I mean, I'm not saying you don't, but I'm just saying I wonder if
So
that would
you-
make a difference. You know?
So you pair the Death Wish espresso roast with the factory smoke Maduro, and I mean, it's a true story. That is an easy, Saturday morning for me. If we have to get up and work, Gibbs will tell you in a heartbeat that I'm out here with my factory smoke cigar and my coffee, and I've been doing that. I've been doing that since forever. Anytime I've had to get up and work, early in the morning. But yeah, that's one of my favorite pairings. Is even okay. It's 90 plus degrees out here today. I'm not drinking coffee. I would, but I'm not. But it is one of my favorite pairings. Is to grab to go pour a cup of coffee, or if I'm out and about, I grab a cup of coffee at not Starbucks, anywhere but Starbucks, and I drink my coffee black. But to have my coffee and a cigar, and any cigar. I mean, I'm kind of agree with you. It's you put the coffee in the cup, you get the cigar to the humidor, and that's your pairing.
Type of pairing.
Yes, there is a coffee. There is a German coffee out there that has finally made it to the United States, and you see it on some of the networks and the social media platforms. And just recently, they introduced a German coffee machine that makes espresso, a small cup, a large cup, and you put just the coffee bean into the container on the top, and you push the button, and you stand in front of this, and you get that smell when the espresso or the coffee is made. It's yes, correct.
Yeah.
And that coffee machine is absolutely fabulous. And I do that often, that I put a double espresso in my coffee, take a cigar, and sit down and just enjoy it. I'll let the day end. And
What's the company?
I have a reason why it's okay. It's Chibo, TCHIBO, Chibo. And you can buy actually the German coffee beans at various different looks and different intensity on the coffee bean.
Interesting.
Which is great.
I'll have to keep an eye out for that. I love little coffee
Now
adventures.
coffee.
Heck yeah.
Mhm.
I remember having my first cafecito, my Cuban, my first Cuban cafecito in Miami at a cigar shop. I'd gone to visit a buddy that had gotten a job down there. Well, I was actually working down there, but he had gotten a job at a cigar shop, and we were talking, and he's, I'm halfway through a cigar, and he's like, "Hey, have this little thimble. What's in it? This is nothing but pure caffeine." Okay, I'll drink that. And yeah, it was great. It was a perfect pairing. It was just your essential Cuban cafecito of coffee and sugar, and it,
Go back into Europe and you test the Turkish coffee.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have had that opportunity.
Not in Europe, but in the U.S.
I have not.
And you can almost, if it's a really good coffee and you put the sugar in it, I know of people who are actually taking a spoon to take the leftovers and
That's me with Turkish coffee. I will empty that cup. I love the like silty grounds at the bottom. We have in Knoxville there's a Turkish restaurant called Turkish Market that my wife and I used to go to all the time. It's this little tiny couple who owns it, and they're super sweet, and we'll get lunch there and then have them make us some Turkish coffee, and it's so delicious.
Yeah, a good baklava, cigar, and Turkish coffee, and you're moving up. And
I've not done the cigar with it. That's in the future.
That sounds like a nutritious breakfast to me. That's just what that sounds like.
Totally.
It's like I need that in my life right now.
Yeah, not later. Now's a good time.
Exactly, right now.
If I had it, I'd probably go off camera and go make some because.
So I'm actually getting to the sad part of my cigar. It's like
same,
really low. Robert's doing pretty good on his. I'm surprised.
I'm slow.
Dirk still has a whole cigar. It's not he hadn't even lit it yet. See, he knows how to actually enjoy his cigars. And he's doing all right.
Cigar makes me want to smoke it faster.
I'm trying to enjoy this cigar. It's not like a regular cigar.
I know it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying this one. No rush.
I've only got one of these, so I'm dragging it out as long as I can.
There you go.
I know, right?
I mean, you can't go down to the store and pick one up.
This is true.
Can't order on Amazon either.
It looked like somebody was importing them when I was trying to do a little research on it.
Yeah, there are stuff out there. You can buy them. I've seen them.
It won't be as special.
Now, the one thing that is, of course, unique is the warning.
The
warning label.
Health warning. Yeah.
Thank you, European Union, for letting us know that smoking may or may not be bad for us.
That's one thing I've noticed about all the EU stuff. Man, that is front and center. The label of the cigar usually isn't even as big as the warning label.
Now, one thing on my to-do list actually is to go to Dortmund one of these years in the future, to go to Intertabak, which is the biggest European, if not worldwide, cigar trade show. I need to put that on my list. It's coming up middle of September in Dortmund, Germany, and it's supposed to be a cigar trade show on steroids.
Wow,
one of these days I will make it over there.
And then you come back and you go to IPCR, which is no longer IPCR. It's the PCA.
PCA.
It used to be the IPCR.
Is that the one in
which we're trying to get to?
Florida.
That's the one.
It's New Orleans. It's in New Orleans this year. Next year.
Gotcha. It's in New Orleans. It's in New Orleans in 25. It was in Vegas this last year.
Right.
And it's huge.
It was in Vegas. Now it's going to be in New Orleans. And like I said, we're trying to weasel our way in there.
Maybe we get a press pass or something.
We're trying. I want to go.
Yeah, it's huge.
Do you have something, Andy?
Dirk, is there yeah, sure. Being up in North Georgia, having been from Georgia, I don't recall. So one of my favorite places to visit, of course, is Helen, right? The old Salty Inn, and then moving on up to Helen. And so, do they happen to have a cigar shop in Helen? And I've just missed it over all these years.
I have not found one in Helen. They have one in LJ, which is relatively young.
Okay.
They have one in Blue Ridge is the next one up. There's one in between LJ and Blue Ridge. And then further south of where I am, Woodstock has a really good one. And then Marietta, Austell, that area, Kennesaw has quite a few very good ones. Yeah.
Very nice.
A few, yeah.
I think Woodstock is where the cigar shop is. That place is called the Cigar Shop. Yeah, they have some rare stuff.
Oh, nice.
I highly recommend that one if you're ever down in this area. Go to that one because they have such rare stuff that I'm amazed when I go in there and just see all the stuff that they have.
Sounds like a field trip, good.
Mm-hmm.
Get in the car.
If you ever make it over to Kansas City for whatever reason, I would recommend that you go to Outlaw Cigar and Brewery. That's a really good one.
I've got a buddy that goes there on the regular.
Oh boy, that's really good. That's amazing. And they have concerts and they have a lot of good events going on there. So it's definitely worth that. Like 21 or 22 beers there.
I thought you had stock
Right up
in
your
for a
alley,
minute
Zach.
there because I saw so many posts from you about it.
No,
It's other investments.
I know, right? You invested in Outlaw right there because I'm like, I've seen so many posts about it. Like, well, I mean, we do follow you. At least me personally, yeah, I look at your stuff.
I do too.
Especially when it pops up on Instagram and things like that. I look at it and read through it, and if I have time, of course. But yeah, we follow you. We like you, Dirk. You're a pretty awesome, dude.
I remember we had a good old time at that cigar store just outside Atlanta. That was a good one.
Oh yeah, I got a story about that. Okay, so Dirk, when we're going to meet for the first time, I grabbed Grim, and we're going to go up to meet him, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, he has a place all nice and picked out. We're going to go meet him, say hi, and I figured out he was actually doing reconnaissance for his website. He didn't really care about the place. He just never been there before. So he was taking pictures and everything. I'm like, he's updating the website. He didn't really care about us. We're an afterthought.
At least you got to go along for the ride.
I did. I got to enjoy a good cigar with Dirk. So that was the fun part about it.
It was really nice. It was one of those ones that you don't necessarily know immediately, but you get into it and enjoy when you are there. There's a really good other store if you ever make it into Atlanta, Havana Cigars on Auburn Avenue, which is a really cool place. It's very, very cozy, great people, great owners, and you get really good coffee there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I've
That
been
makes
in
sense.
there. It's been years, but I've been in there.
I don't think I've ever been to Havana Cigars.
It's really, I would highly recommend that you do that because they have a nice little area to sit down, nice humidor. It's very, very, everybody knows everybody. And you walk in there and like with what we do experience with the cigar industry overall is it's very family. You walk in, you sit down, you start your cigar and you start talking immediately with everybody and and you leave and make some new friends, which is great.
That's the thing I love about cigar shops, lounges.
You need to do that one weekend, Ben.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, and that's the point of a good lounge. When you're in a good lounge is when you have that kind of atmosphere where everybody's friendly, everybody is willing to talk to you, find out more about you, find out what you're smoking, give you some tips, about hey, if you haven't tried this, try that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really, and then not just from a salesman, but from other people who've actually smoked and enjoyed.
That's why I go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to go to more cigar shops because the guy I go to cigar shops with is moving.
Sorry.
So I'm actually have to go by myself and make new friends
Make new friends.
and bring them on the podcast.
That's right.
No, the other thing I like about cigar lounges and stores is that they all have that relationship one way or the other with the military. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they are giving back, that they really try to bring that in, the veteran side of it. And there are, like the one up in Blue Ridge, Smoky Bear Cigars and Cafe. That's also, they're very focused on veterans and giving back and making sure that You know, they always ask you, are you are you veteran? Do you have any ties to the military? And I think that's very important.
Another shop that Dirk owns stock in. This is what.
I'm just trying to help a little bit here.
Well, you know,
No,
when you're
no,
there often enough, you might as well have a vested interest in keeping them open.
Yeah, and I want to go to both. So you're doing your job. I want to go to both. I want to go to Outlaw, and I want to go to Smoky Bear, right?
Yeah. Smoky Bear Cigars and Coupe. Super nice people. Actually, at the end of next week, they have events there, and it's always a nice event. Locals show up, and you have people who visit and are in town to shop or do whatever. They come by and buy a few cigars. I think it's important that we all support cigar stores and lounges all across the country.
Agreed.
We were talking to Skip Martin, and that was a very similar conversation. Support your local B&M or brick and mortar, because it's where conversations happen.
Correct.
And that's something that we don't, especially. And I'm going to speak for myself, especially as somebody who works from home. I don't get out and get to converse with a whole lot of other people during the week. It's a good opportunity to go to a brick and mortar, grab a cigar, sit down, and seriously make friends and have conversations, and get different viewpoints on things in life in general.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely support your local B&M, and I'm going to say support Penny and Penny's Public House, even if they're not local. It's a couple hour drive from here. And when I say a couple hours, it's what is that we figured out? What was it, like 18 hours?
It's more than that. It's
Louisiana to New Hampshire. Yeah,
23, I think.
Yeah, that'll work.
That sounds rightish.
I'll pick you up on my drive through Knoxville.
Sounds good.
You're not going to be over in Knoxville already when I'm there, right?
Probably too early. We're still working on our move date, but we've got to sell a house and do a few things here in Louisiana.
But Zach knows all the good.
Well, I used to frequent Smoky.
The one.
I've been to Blue Smoke, which you mentioned. That was very close to my house. It's a smaller shop, but they had a decent selection for the size, and the people there were nice. But the Smokies was my regular spot, and the owner there is cool. I'm trying to remember his name, but they had events pretty regularly, and kind of got to know a little group of guys, and we go. I ride motorcycles, and one of them rode motorcycles, and so we talk about bikes and stuff, and you're just interesting people that end up there from all walks of life. There'll be, a guy that works at Starbucks talking to one of the most successful lawyers in Knoxville, just like they've been hanging out every day. It was just really, an inviting location. Really, really enjoyed that.
The other thing which I enjoy about the cigar industry is the fact that we all share. We all share, and I've met so many cigar enthusiasts who follow the rule, their rule of buying 2 cigars, and they buy one for them and one to give away. And I think that's really cool, because when you go into a lounge or in a store and you sit down and not necessarily immediately have one, I've been asked so often, you want to stick? Just to be nice, and that's wonderful. We have a cigar club here in the area in Duquesne, where I live, and it's about 80 people. We meet every other week at locations, and just enjoy that. And people bring something to drink and share, and cigars are floating around, and that's what makes the cigar industry very unique.
Sure.
If you're going overseas, you have that same experience. You look at somebody and you necessarily can immediately communicate with them, but here comes the cigar your way, and it's great.
Right, it's here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who needs English when you have sign language?
Exactly. When in doubt, talk about the cigars. That's all I'm saying. All right, so mine has gone out. I wanted to see if I can relight it.
If I
But yeah, it's down to
Yeah, if I relight mine, I'm
gonna
gonna
bring it out here
send some
shortly.
mustache hairs or something.
I think I can get a couple more puffs out of this before we review it, because we're definitely going to review this one. We can't all be professionals like Dirk and draw it out as long as he does. I'm impressed by that, by the way. I really am. You have the patience for it. I don't. But of course, we're trying to squeeze, a show into it, so I'm smoking them faster than what I really should be to enjoy it. Correct.
I enjoyed it pretty correctly.
Zach's like, speak for yourself. I loved it.
That's awesome.
Well, what will happen in September, end of September, early October, is I will have a little cigar giveaway on behalf of the North Georgia Cigar
very
Fest.
nice.
Oh,
And will be
None
one
of us are eligible because we're going to be there, and we're
Oh, that's hey, I'm in the cigar industry. You know what? I mean, that's my hobby and my passion, so it's all good. But I will put some out, and it will be this neat little cigar stand with a logo on it. Will be part of a package.
yeah, Gibbs, you lucky dog.
Will be the poker chip
Nice.
and the sticker that I have here. I came prepared. There you go.
Very nice.
And then together with
so did I.
there you go.
I also have a sticker and a poker chip.
There you go.
Yep.
Mine are on my desk. I'd bring them out here.
I didn't get.
And then
No, that one's
last
actually
but not
yours, Rob.
least, one in November is going to be
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
So I was looking
Those
at
are
the
very
hats
nice.
that you posted the other day. Yeah, I liked the one that's got the full back and that's not the trucker hat, but yeah, it's an awesome hat.
Yeah,
I'm trying to talk Gibbs into get us some hats. That's
You try to give us.
know where to get them, and it's a American-based company. They do all the stitching in the United States. Takes a little bit longer than others, but it's really Hat Launch is a great company for that.
awesome.
Let's check them out.
And there's their shout out. Don't forget to
Yep,
tag him in the
there's
post.
a- Can't do the cigar anymore. Dang it. Just burnt me. It's okay. It was worth it.
That's what that missing spot is on your mustache.
Right there for all the burning. It's called the sacrificial middle. So do we want to rate it? I don't want to end it, even though I haven't, But for me, cigar lit well. I did have a construction issue, but I think because it was shipped a couple times, that probably was the problem. So I'm not going to knock it off for construction, but lit up well. The taste of it was great. I couldn't pinpoint anything specific out of it. I couldn't, tell you if it was leather, cedar, whatever. But normally I can't do that anyway. So I don't know why you expect that from me.
That's why we have Zach.
So that's why we have Zach point out those notes. Then for me, no film in the mouth, which is definitely a big thing for me. No film in the mouth. So it's great there. Smoke output was great. I felt like, Clint Eastwood the entire time, which that was, the whole point. And so I'm gonna give it a 4.25. Only thing I'm knocking it out for is I kind of wish it was a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger.
Well, you have
But
five.
I mean, that's true. But I don't have that pack. I only have one. But that's okay. It paired well with the whiskey that I'm having. But honestly, with this whiskey, I don't think there's anything that's going to probably go bad. Be a bad pairing with it. So, yeah. So 4.25 is my rating. How about you, Andy?
I liked it. It was a different experience cigar wise than what we usually have. It's outside of my usual range of the Rothschild or the Lonsdale, that 5.5 by 60. And so it was definitely an awesome experience. I'm with you, Dirk. I kind of got the earthy tones with it. And it paired, I'm with Gibbs. I don't know that anything doesn't pair well with a good reserve whiskey. And I don't have the palate that Zach does, so we'll let Zach use all the fancy descriptive words. But it smoked really well, and yeah, I need a roach clip at this point. And I'm grateful to have this cigar. So, but it's been enjoyable. It drew really well. It did good strength. It wasn't overpowering. It's good earthy, flavors to it. On a 1 to 5, I'd probably go to 4. but I would definitely if I find it online, which I will probably go hunt for it in the very near future. I'll probably pick some up just to have some on hand to try again and see how I feel about it after having more than just one.
All right. How about you, Robert? You're enjoying it because you still have it.
I'm enjoying the shit out of this. Dirk, thank you so much for this. This is awesome. I'm gonna say 4.7, and I would go higher, but I can't find them here in the States.
Yeah,
Unless I order them. That's the only thing stopping me from going higher. I mean, it lit well, burns great. No, I didn't have the construction issues that Ben had.
Gibbs is
Flavor
weird.
was nice. I will leave it to Zach to tell us the flavors, of course. I didn't get any cardamom out of it, but I don't think I did anyway. Zach, you'll have to tell me. But yeah, 4.7.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna let Robert with cigars.
It's just his video is lost every time he starts talking about cigars.
Actually, I think I'm gonna edit it to the point where he says, "Thanks, Dirk, for the cigar,"
Right.
and cut it off there. That's it. How about you, sir?
It was surprising to me. Like I said before, you can't judge. It's different from the cigars that I would normally pick by appearance, but that has me thinking that maybe I should open my horizons a little more. It was approachable. I would say medium light, maybe not overpowering, but not absent or anything like that. I got pepper, which I talked about earlier, and that kind of tapered off towards the last third for me. Probably just became a little taste blind to that after a while. And then actually you mentioned earth. I got a little earth, and it kind of sweetened up a little bit to me towards the end, which was kind of pleasant. I definitely felt the Clint Eastwood vibe, which made me feel kind of cool. Let's see. I'm gonna give it a 4, and I'm probably gonna order some to have on hand because that was delightful. Thank you again, Dirk. Enjoyed it.
Hey, Zach, according to Toscano's cigar website, we can pick them up at Moss over on Paramount. Yeah.
Maybe I'll pick some up next time in that area.
I'm going to look. Yeah, I'm going to go to their site and actually take a look. But the reason I don't want to close out so early is because I want to talk a little bit more about the pairings. I know I'm sitting there trying to dig information as much as I can out of Dirk, and he's just telling me, just pick what you like. Okay, because I don't want to. But there is something to it. There is something to a pairing that makes it. Like I said, I find for me, not so much whiskey because I enjoy whiskey, but I don't drink whiskey all the time. So I do like a soda, and like I said, Dr. Pepper is my go-to for it. And for some reason, for me, the Dr. Pepper, well, there you go. See, Dr. Pepper for me just brings out a little bit more flavor with my cigar. And that's why I go to it. So the reason I'm pushing so much is because there are a lot of people out there that's like, how do you pair? How do you sit there and try to figure out what might taste good with something else? And the only thing I could think of was literally you have to look at the notes and see. Well, okay, see, I'm already going wrong there. Dirk's shaking his head, but I think. I mean, you're right because if you go off the notes, you're going off of what somebody is interpreting,
right?
That they taste in it, right? So I see your point there, but maybe look at the flavor profile of it, not necessarily what it tastes like, but more, is it a Maduro? Is it a Connecticut? Is it is it a Habano? And try to maybe pick out something that might complement that a little bit more. So if it's a heavier cigar, would you want like a coffee with it? A bolder flavor with it, or do you don't want to set that off by having bold and bold?
What I experienced years and years ago is, when you go to a buffet and you're invited to a function and they have this buffet, I learned early on one of the easiest ways to actually enjoy the buffet is start with the dessert. You go to the dessert first, right? Because nobody goes there, and then when the line is dying down on the other stuff, you go there. And what I have started doing many years ago is that actually I have enjoyed starting with dessert. And one of my to-go desserts when it gets to cigars or to wine or to whiskey is always the sweet stuff. So one of the best desserts to pair either a wine, a whiskey, or any other, or even a beer. It easily is the way to go with the dessert. And that always gives me an opening of the flavor palette that I want to experience. And that's where I would start if I were to think about it. An ice cream with like a cinnamon ice cream or a cigar or an ice cream. A tiramisu is excellent. A tiramisu opens up all sorts of flavors because it has that little bit of licorice in it. It comes in where you have the opportunity to have that cinnamon or that chocolate in it, your tiramisu. If you pair that along with a glass of wine and then a cigar, that gives you that flavor profile that you're looking for. It's really amazing to experience that, to go in and have the tiramisu along with wine and the cigar. That together is my favorite way of experiencing a cigar.
What do you think about that? I'm gonna have to have a slice of apple pie and a cigar.
Mm-hmm. Apple pie with cinnamon in it. And what I always do with the tiramisu is I always put the tiramisu in first, followed by the red wine, and then the cigar.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds good.
It really is. I think what really you talked about how people are following the content that has been written about the cigar. And I think it's a great direction, but it should not intimidate you in order to explore your own profile on a cigar or a wine or a whiskey, whatever you pair it with. Start and be comfortable, be wild, if you want to call it that, and really direct and try different things. I personally, and I'm not kidding you all, I have never, ever, ever, and I'm now living here in the United States for 30 plus years. I have never had a Dr. Pepper.
I'm sending you a case, Dirk.
Yeah.
Never had that. I've heard that the sugar in the Dr. Pepper actually is making a difference in it. And I think that's why I personally prefer the tiramisu with it, because it gives you that all these variances in that dessert that gives you really that flavor and it opens it up. And if you were to take a whiskey with a tiramisu and a cigar, my recommendation is to try that. I always tell people, when you go with the cigars and you're starting, go with a light or medium body of the cigar to really get into it. When going back to the scotch, when a lot of people that are drinking bourbon are not trying to go into scotch, they make that mistake that they go with the heavy peated stuff like the Lefroy or the Arbor. And that often kills that experience completely because it's so overwhelming. And it's the same thing with cigars. You are taking a dark cigar, and dark doesn't necessarily mean heavy. That we have to know that. So you don't have to be scared by the color of a cigar. But if you are looking at something pairing, go with what you would drink normally and bring the cigar into the game and experience it that way. That's, from my point of view, a better way than to really 100% rely on what you read. It's a great direction. I still struggle often with all the nuances of what is supposed to be in that cigar, what I'm supposed to find. It's the same thing with scotch. If you put a scotch in front of me and tell me all these fruits and all this, what you're supposed to find, maybe I'll find it, but not necessarily.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree there. Because, like, going back to what we were just talking about earlier, was we rely on Zach to pull out flavors for stuff because we don't get those hints of what everybody's saying is in it. We just don't get it. We enjoy the cigar. We don't enjoy the cigar. We like the taste. We don't like the taste. So if you're out there and you are learning about cigars and you're starting it up, we've been doing it for years, right?
Correct.
And we don't hit those tastes. So if you don't get those tastes, you're not doing it wrong.
Right.
You just don't get those tastes that they're saying. It's okay. Just focus on, are you enjoying yourself? Do you like the cigar? Yes. Then, get you another one like that. If you don't, move on to something else,
I had a friend who was jokingly saying, I recently went to the store and bought some rice pudding. I thought he was joking. We sat down at his house and he brought out this prepackaged rice pudding. I thought he was making a joke, right? It was not. It was a very interesting pairing and experience to have that rice pudding along with the cigar. And I'm sure everybody who is going to watch this broadcast later on is going to say, this guy over there from Germany is weird. But I had a good time with it. I think that it's really, you need to be just with every food or beverage out there. You need to be out there to try something new because that's really going to be an experience. And often you have it one time. If you do the same thing a week later, you will have a complete different experience. And that's the beauty of pairing in general, that every time you do it, even the next day, if you eat leftovers from your steak that you had and put a vegetable with it, and then you pair it with a cigar, it's completely different.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I neglected to talk about my Wild Turkey 101 with my cigar as a pairing. It was not bad, but it's probably not the whiskey I would have chosen if I had other options in my house. I think a little bit of a sweeter whiskey, something maybe like I don't know, something wheated or maybe even an Irish like Gibbs had would probably be pretty good. Some of those sweeter tones I think would complement better than this particular whiskey. It wasn't bad, like I said, but it just wasn't like a stair step up with it. It was kind of like the cigar was here and the whiskey didn't quite match up. But now I know that. I'm gonna try a different one next time.
There you go.
Drink what you got, son.
The other thing I can recommend is, look at your local whiskey clubs. If you find a local whiskey club that is out there that is introducing a variety of whiskeys, and a lot of whiskey drinkers are also cigar enthusiasts, and many of those clubs afterwards usually have an interest in sitting around and have a cigar and experience some of the whiskeys that they had during the whiskey club meeting. And that's a great way of getting access to a wide spectrum of either wine, if it's a wine club or a cigar or whiskey club or whatever, or beer.
Yeah.
People like to share and like to get together and share their experience, but at the same time, you can learn an awful lot from all of these clubs.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like even my neighborhood, they have a whiskey tasting every once in a while. It's like usually once a month they all meet. Just everybody brings something, and you get to try different things. Now I'm an introvert, so I don't go to these things. But that is a great suggestion.
Well,
So what you're saying is,
But I mentioned it earlier, but the whiskey club, we had this Irish, Welsh, French, and Swedish whiskey tasting.
Yeah.
Several of us were hanging around afterwards, and we talked about, how we can pair that with cigars. And of course, being the salesperson that I'm not shy of pitching the North Georgia Cigar Festival. It's a great way of getting to know people in the area and share things together. And you bring a bottle next time you go to these tastings, and it's a really good time together and share.
I have to look for one of these.
I want to say thank you for being on, Dirk. Your wealth of knowledge, you've shared that with us. We appreciate that. And we want to turn the floor over to you and pitch to North Georgia Cigar, or pitch whatever you want to pitch. This is your opportunity to do so, and use our platform as that broadcast.
Well, I appreciate you having me for sure. And it was great fun. I mean, watching your podcast all the time And, having that relationship that we're building is great. And the opportunity to learn about your experience in industries and cigars is amazing because we learn so much from each other. And your support on Instagram for me is very, very important. I look
Same.
forward to having you at the North Georgia Cigar Festival in March of next year. March 23rd, you can already go on and do cigar. You can already purchase tickets. I know it's a long way out. We definitely will have vendors, and there's opportunities for sponsorship for these vendors. Um, I want to make sure it's affordable from the very beginning. So when you go on the website is ngacigarfestival.com. So NG, North Georgia Cigarfestival.com. It's the same on Instagram. The hashtag is the same. If you're new to the cigar industry, I would highly recommend that you go to Cigars for Beginners. The website is Cigars, FO, for cigarsforbeginners.com. Instagram is a little different. It's Cigars and the number 4 beginners because I couldn't use the entire spelling, unfortunately. But that's okay. So if you're new to it, or even if you have experienced cigars forever, there's always something out there. I publish news. I put news out there. I have 2 blog posts a week. I'm already in October right now writing because there's so much going on that I really enjoy sharing. Take a look at the daily posts and the daily quotes that I put out, cigar quotes, which I love doing because it's a lot of fun to find something and share. And Cigars for Beginners is all about information, giving people the opportunity to come to one website and learn all of these things and share. I mean, I get emails and information from many people saying, "Oh, you know what? Why don't you write about this?" Or "There's a good topic," or "Here's a quote." Things like that. It's all about community. It's all about the cigar. Please share with others because someone will appreciate it and pass it on to the next person, like we all do. And I appreciate it. So cigarsforbeginners.com, NGA cigarfestival.com are the 2 websites. And hit me up on Instagram, connect. And then, as I said, end of September, early October, you will be able to get packs of those. And it's more
I'm entering.
sharing and spreading. Please do.
I'm stuffing the ballot.
Okay.
I'll just get Pam to do it. I'll do it.
There you go. I'll get everybody I know to do it and just put my name on it.
Well, thank you again for all of that and allow me to be part of this. And it was great fun. So thank you.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thanks, Dirk.
We appreciate you coming on. So, in closing, we're just going to say
Good night.
night.
Bye. Bye-bye.